What's up, guys? Welcome back to the home slice. Sorry for the wind noise. There's a little bit of wind going on at the moment. To be honest, there's a baby sleeping in one of my usual film locations, and there's some Airbnb guests staying in another, and so I ran out to my car to film the last video, if you guys got that. And then the sun was coming up and I'm just like glowing orange, and so I'm just like running, trying to find a place to get this video done before I start the week. But anyway, today we're gonna tackle the next episode of Paramilitary 2 versus everything. Today we actually have a custom Paramilitary 2 reblade done by Razor Edge Knives that was sent to me by my friend Calvin. So thanks heaps, Calvin, for that. But I was wondering what to do with some of the sort of different Spydercos, and I decided to lump these ones together in a sort of low alloy category because I didn't know how else to categorize them. But for the next week, I'm going to try for the first time carrying only a fully serrated knife. So we're gonna carry this Spyderco Salt in H2. And I used to have in H1 the yellow handled plain edge version of this, and I really liked it. And so I know actually that I like this model. It sort of follows after the Delica. I've never had a Delica proper, but I really did like the plain edge version of this. I was worried that I wasn't gonna be able to sharpen the serrations to my liking, but they've actually turned out great. They stropped up really nice. Just really beautiful edge taken on the serrations, and actually I got it to whittle a hair on a few sections of edge, and I'll show that on the video because that actually blew my mind. That H2 Serrated is going to be facing off against the SpydieChef in LC200N. I've always wanted to try out a SpydieChef. This also has been sent by my friend Calvin, and we've put a nice dual grit edge on it. The SpydieChef and the H2 Serrated Salt are going to face off against this custom monster of a PM2. This is like a Paramilitary 2 on steroids. It's got heaps more edge length, so much edge length that the edge comes up in the back, and they've actually had to put a ramp on this compression lock bar so that you can actually not get cut by the edge when it comes back. It just shields your finger there a little bit, but a really cool blade design. This is 63 HRC 1095, and this 1095 has taken, every time I sharpen it, it takes the most beautifully fine edge that I could imagine. It's crazy, the sharpening characteristics of this. It is on a hollow grind that is so thin behind the edge. I don't even know if you can see that. I forget, I think it's around the 10,000ths of an inch mark. So we're gonna just carry these guys against one another, and I'll come back to you after 3 weeks, 1 week of carry each, and give you my thoughts on these three very different, sort of scattered designs. All right, guys, 3 weeks of carry later, I am coming back at you with some interesting, I think, observations. All right, I've got the H2 Salt serrated in the Spyderco box because I'm prepping to send it back to Spyderco here in the present. But what did I observe about this guy? Well, the first thing is that I really like the carry size and layout, and one of the main things that I think I realized by carrying this thing is that I actually need to try out a Delica, because this is the sort of size proportion of the Delica. I really like how the handle fits. It's a decent amount of edge. I've always in the past felt like the Delica and Endura wouldn't have enough edge length for how big they would carry. But I made that judgment call without ever carrying one and feeling how narrow they are and how they taper and stuff. And after having the Chaparral last episode, Sal just blew my mind so much with his design that he could make like 60 millimeters of edge really work for almost everything that I did. I was like, well, I've written off so many designs done by Spyderco in the past because I thought, oh, they need more edge length. The 50-50 choil or the ricasso or the stop kind of eat up some of that linear space that you could have more edge length. And I like a lot of edge length. but seeing how Sal sort of positions his edges in the cut and shapes them, and that really means you can get a lot of utility out of like 50, 60, 70 millimeters of edge, which is usually less than what I like. Usually I like about 75 or 3 inches of edge is kind of my ideal in most cases. But I was like, well, if that doesn't apply, then there's a whole bunch of Spyderco designs that I've always been like, oh, it's too little edge length. And so I'm going to be probably selling off some gear and picking up some Spydercos to try out in this edge length. So I really enjoyed the edge length layout and design. Let's talk about serrations. The serrations started out super sharp, and because it's H2, they sort of began to fade a little bit in that zippy cutting power about halfway through the week, because I did cut up a lot of cardboard and a lot of stuff. The serrations were a lot better for certain things than I thought, like better enough to be really interesting. Like there's certain food prep tasks that this thing just flew through and zipped through where I would have expected it to be a little more chunky and clunky. But here on the third sharpening on this H2 Salt, they're starting to round out, and I get what the Serrated guys say. They say that over the lifetime of the edge, it gets smoother and smoother, and you get to be able to sharpen it better and better, and I did experience that. So I really enjoyed it for certain things. Now, you Serrated guys, you gotta let me know, because I'm cutting up these like double ply cardboard boxes, like banana boxes. We use a lot of them here to cart food around and stuff. And this thing just tears little ribbons of cardboard out. If you saw, you know, it's like, even when it's sharp, I guess I don't have the motion quite right, or maybe you just accept that when you're a serrated guy. You're just like, I just chew through stuff. There's gonna be sawdust everywhere. I don't know. Or board dust, card dust. Anyway, if you guys have a tip, the best thing I could figure out was like getting the cardboard like not at 90 degrees, but like really shallow and pulling through this way. And in some instances that made for a smooth, clean cut that worked really well. In other instances, that would be like a clean cut until it found a point to bind up, and then a bunch of cardboard would like pile up in front of the edge. So it could be that that's just H2 getting a little bit less keen midweek. It could be that I'm bad at using serrations. If you have a tip for me, then put it down in the comments. Overall, I really enjoyed this thing. I think Spyderco's nylon handles are growing on me. I'm just like becoming that like old school knife guy that's like, yeah, give me some nylon. A little bit, which is so funny because I've never been that way. But Spyderco does such a good job with the ergonomics, and they do such a good job with the function. And there is something about a nylon folder with a really good steel that's really well heat treated that you feel so free to use it as a work knife. You don't worry about it. So that's my thoughts on that. Over to the custom PM2, I realized as I was using it, you can barely call this a Para Military 2 because it's so different with this razor edge knives blade. The hollow grind is insane, and this worked really well for almost everything. It does reach quite a large thickness here along this point at the bottom of the fuller. And so certain things like cutting up carrots and stuff like that, they would just kind of they just sort of like frag instead of cut at times. But I really liked this edge shape. I really liked this. This is the amount of edge that I wish that the Para Military 2 had. And so I really enjoyed that. The slicing characteristics of this 1095 until the very end of the week, where it started to fade rather quickly because I did use it quite heavily and I cut up cardboard and stuff that's abrasive. But until the end of the week, the edge keenness characteristics on this were just unparalleled. Like this 63 Rockwell 1095 sharpened better than I think anything I've ever sharpened. It was one of the best, absolute best sharpening experiences. It took a dual grit edge, amazing. It was so keen. It is still doing just fine. Like this is amazingly heat treated 1095. I cut up a bunch of cardboard with this, guys, like a bunch. The thing is that this is good, and there's no catch point. This is really good, but the thing is that I miss the original edge because it was even better than that. It was so zippy. I like this extension they've put on the compression lock. Spyderco, if you are watching, take note. Like, they've put a little extension over here so they can run this bit of edge right up to the backside without your finger touching it, and that allows them to smash out a little bit more edge in the design. Really like that. I really like the compression lock. I had 1 or 2 instances where I got the pinch. You know, when you first use it in a compression lock, you get this bit of your hand like into that spot, and when the bar swings over, it pinches your skin. I was like, ooh, I got that once or twice, and then you just sort of like muscle memory it out and you sort of figure out how to open and close it without pinching yourself. But I did experience that. I've heard guys mention that before. The action on this one is not very good, which is to say that when you get a paramilitary 2 straight out of the box, like Spyderco's tuned it up so much that it just, I'm having trouble with my finger here because I have a big blister because I went camping and I burned myself, so I'm trying to use my middle finger. It did there, okay? So I'm sure this is going to break in over time, but Spyderco so often does polishing and lubricating so well that when you get a paramilitary 2 just out of box from the store, it will flick closed so beautifully. I'm sure that's going to happen over time. It's not really a knock on razor edge knives, but it's more of an impressive note in terms of Spyderco's fit and finish, that they usually get it a lot better than this. So that closing action is not great yet. However, I did find with the ramp over, I really like just grabbing the compression lock with my middle finger and giving it a little nudge with my pointer finger, and that's an easy way to close this knife. So it didn't really inhibit my enjoyment of the blade at all. The blade overall is a little wider than probably if I was to design something to reblade a PM2. It's a little bit wider, but they've done such a gorgeous job. It's just a piece of art. I really, really enjoyed this. Calvin, thank you so much for sending this over to me. This was the knife that originally inspired my friend Calvin to start collaborating with me, so thank you for this. I can't wait to get it back to you with that zippy dual grit edge, and I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. Last knife that I carried in this 3-week period was the SpydieChef. I've been curious about the SpydieChef for a really long time. There's funny things about it, like it kind of looks like a banana when it's closed, but also Marcin Slesh, or however you say his last name, did such a good job with the design flow lines on this model. And it's kind of awkward and swooped, but it's kind of cool in a way. I've never known what to make of it, but everybody raves about how good it is. And I have to say, after using it, I do understand it's not got the ergonomic comfort of the Delica or the PM2, but my goodness. Okay, so check out carry size to carry size here, okay? It's got probably a full centimeter less on carry size in the vertical direction here. In the horizontal direction, it's got, you can't see, sorry. It's probably got about 4 millimeters less, 5. In this direction, it's about 2 millimeters. Sorry, I'm a Kiwi now. I speak in millimeters. Figure it out on Google if you want to know what those measurements are. Those eyeball measurements are. So it's smaller in every way than this custom PM2. And this custom PM2 has several more millimeters of edge than a normal paramilitary 2. In fact, if I've forgotten to put them up, here is the specs that I measured on these guys. But, check this out, okay? Beginning of edge to beginning of edge. If you roll them off, it has just a tiny bit more edge, even though it's smaller in every way. And this is something that I really want to see a little bit more from Spyderco, if possible, is I want to see edge length optimized designs that carry as small as possible and have as much edge as possible. The thing that often stands in the way of that is that we love our like 50-50 choil, And I do love a 50-50 choil, but I also love the diversity of also having some things that carry as small as is possible. And I don't mind if all my grip is actually on the handle for some of the designs that I carry. But I like to have a lot of edge. That's just me, okay? That's just me. But that is a perspective that I have and that I bring. The SpydieChef, not as ergonomically comfortable as either of these. As I said, this cutout is cool in that it slims the design, but it is a little bit sharp in certain use cases. But it's not bad. It's good EDC sort of level of ergonomics. And I actually took this out camping with my kids, and it was so nice. The LC200N, you never have to worry about it rusting. I think LC200N is everything, just about everything that I had always hoped that H1 or H2 would be. It's like better edge retention than like your 420HC. It's like up there with your 14C28N or even a little bit better, and it does not rust. You don't have to worry about it. So camping, it got wet, it got food on it, it was damp, it was humid, and you just don't have to worry about a knife that's in Spyderco's like kind of salt lineup. Like they just don't rust, which is great. I'm excited to try out Magnica and see if it's this worry-free. I assume that it probably will be. But overall, I really liked LC200N as a steel. I did everything with this out camping. I actually like notched out so I could like pick the teapot up out of the fire with it. I cut up food, I cut up wood, I've cut up a bunch of cardboard with this. I do a lot of cardboard cutting in the winter because I use it to start our fires in our wood stove or our bonfire. And I've been really impressed. I was really impressed with the LC200N. It's not the craziest edge holder, but it took a really keen edge and very, very stable edge and performed really well. Usually, like if this handle was straighter, this tip would be way too high for me. But I do find with the crazy amount of forward rake, if you're gripping it towards the rear end of the handle, it's just low enough, this tip is, to be really user-friendly. And I did enjoy this. I would say it felt a little thick on the stock thickness for some kitchen tasks, in my opinion. I ended up just feeling like when you chop through your carrots, or if you end up with a real compressive food like a squash or sweet potato, I think they probably could have gone with a thinner stock thickness. It's not a deal breaker for me, and I really like the SpydieChef. I think it's possible. I liked it enough that I may buy one in the future. We'll just have to let this series finish up and see what sort of settles out as my sort of favorites. But overall, I really enjoyed the design and uniqueness of the SpydieChef. Okay, well that's my triple rapid fire review. If you're still with me, man, you're a dedicated viewer, but we've still got to pick out a winner for this series. Okay, things I should mention. I should compare the LC200N to the 1095. I think this is a little bit less keen. Oh, it's pretty zippy still through the middle. I think that they're about the same on edge retention. This 63 Rockwell 1095 and this normal LC200N. Another thing I should mention is that I did not enjoy the experience of the Serrated so much that I'm going to make this one the winner. But I did enjoy it enough that I was like, I should do this justice. And I should try it on a flat ground blade and try to customize the serrations a little bit so they get really sharp, and maybe use a nicer steel. And my viewers that are always telling me, hey, you got to try Serrated, I should do justice to those requests and get myself a full Serrated Spyderco that might be what I really want it to be. And so I found that they had the leaf jumper on sale because it's discontinued in a full serrated blade in K390, and I have ordered one of those. So Serrated guys, stay tuned. I'm gonna tinker around with those and see if I can optimize the serrations, and that'll be a model with a little more edge length and a lot longer edge holding steel and a full flat grind. And this has convinced me to at least give it a full try, to really try out serration. So all of you who've been like, K390 Serrated all the way, hey, it's coming at you. pretty soon, next couple months. Okay, that leaves us with these two. And the series is Paramilitary 2 versus everything. You could barely call this a Paramilitary 2, but it does have the full handle and the lock, and I'm gonna call it a Paramilitary 2 for the sake of the series. Did I like this or the SpydieChef better? Well, I anticipated liking this better, this custom PM2, by miles and miles and miles. And I think I did like this custom PM2 better, but it was really by a very narrow margin compared to what I thought it would be. I think the SpydieChef sort of exceeded my expectations, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I took this camping and not this, because I would have been worried that this would have rusted. I don't really want to rust or patina my friend Calvin's beautiful 1095 custom. I did enjoy how it just discolored just slightly and darkened a little bit, and you get some of that carbon steel character. I was careful to wipe it down, where when I get my own, you know, K390 or whatever carbon steel I try next, I don't think I'm going to be that worried about it. I'll let it discolor a little bit more. I do kind of enjoy that, but there's like a particular enjoyment of both. I feel like if you have carbon steel, you're sort of dedicated to like, this is a user, because it's going to discolor, it's going to patina, it's going to sort of become a storied knife, and you just got to use it and be okay with it changing and those atoms on the surface of the steel breaking down, you know, and just enjoying the fact that the edge is so crisp. Like, that's kind of what you sign up for with a carbon steel. And I enjoyed that on this. There is a special enjoyment to me to also not having to worry at all about rust and feeling like, man, this is so rust resistant that I could probably like give this to my kids someday, and it could serve them for their whole lives. They might have to re-taper the grind a little bit, but my goodness, like, you would never have to worry about it rusting or being damaged in the pivot so that it loosens up and doesn't function well anymore. Where with a carbon steel, there is a level of care and there's a level of like sort of temporariness that I feel a little bit more. But coming back to the tournament, in terms of what design I enjoyed more, I have already said it and I'm going to stick with it. I think I enjoyed the Paramilitary 2 just a hair better. So the winner of our first episode, which I'll put a link on screen for at the end of this video, the winner of our first episode of the tournament was not the Paramilitary 2, it was the Chaparral, which just really surprised me with how much I loved that knife. The winner of number 2 of this gauntlet, Paramilitary 2 versus everything, is the custom Paramilitary 2. And so we're even odds, and we've got 2 more episodes to go. We'll see if the Paramilitary 2s pull out the win by having more episodes they've won, or whether the other Spydercos in the lineup sort of edge them out for the victory. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry it was long. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. Your link's on screen now. For the rest of you, I will say peace out from the home slice. I hope you all have a good day. Take care. Bye.